today. It's a summer menu inspired by the flavors of the Middle East, complete with charred lamb skewers, grilled eggplant topped with a vinaigrette and a few cherry tomatoes, a cool and creamy tzatziki, and couscous that's inspired by tabbouleh with lots of fresh herbs. And to finish it off, an easy fruit salad that's flavored with lime and ginger. So we're gonna get started with the couscous. And over here I have some water in a little saucepan. It's just 3/4 of a cup of water. Now this kind of couscous doesn't really require cooking as much as it requires being rehydrated. So it's really easy. So this is 3/4 of a cup of water. To that we're gonna add 3/4 of a cup of couscous. All right, gonna add a little olive oil, about a tablespoon, and a little bit of salt. There we go. Now we're just gonna stir this together. You can see it's already starting to rehydrate. Just takes about 5 minutes or so. All I wanna do is put the lid on this, let it sit aside for about 5 minutes. In the meantime, let's get started on that cool and creamy tzatziki. First, the cucumber, just a regular traditional cucumber. Now, English cucumbers, those are the long ones that have smaller seeds. I know they're really popular and I like them sometimes, but I find that they have a milder flavor. And for this sauce, I like a bolder cucumber flavor. So you just wanna trim the ends, peel off the skin. Sometimes I leave the skin on just because I like the fiber and the color. There we go. Nice cucumber from my local farm stand, which is the beauty of summer around here. Done with the peeler. Now I'm gonna seed the cucumber. To do that, you cut it in half, take a spoon, and you start at one end, and you just scrape the seeds right into your trim bowl. Now sometimes the seeds taste a little bitter, that's why people take it out. I don't mind that flavor. What I don't like is they can add a lot of moisture, which can make a watery tzatziki. So getting rid of the seeds, set that aside. All right, now you can dice it or shred it. This time we're gonna shred it because it's faster and the shreds of cucumber really work nicely into the yogurt for the sauce. So large holes of a box grater. I love this box grater. I used to hate shredding things on a box grater because it took so long. But this box grater, the holes are like, what are those, rasp style graters? They're very sharp. I mean, minus, they're very sharp, you have to be careful, but it makes shredding an absolute breeze. All right, all these end bits go in the sink. This goes in the sink. All right, and right into the serving bowl, these little bits go. And actually, I make this kind of sauce for all sorts of grilled meats and chicken and fish during the summer. All right, to finish it off, we're gonna add a little bit of yogurt, not just any yogurt, Greek yogurt. And this is the 5% stuff. This is whole milk yogurt. I mean, you could use a lower fat yogurt, but when you use the 5% yogurt, it just stays so good. You never wanna go back. A little bit of olive oil, about 2 tablespoons or so. We're gonna grate a clove of garlic. I know I'm a big fan of these rasp style graters, huh? All right, little salt and pepper. Lastly, some fresh herbs. Mint and dill is traditional. I'm just using all mint here because I couldn't find dill, but I love dill. Sometimes play it up, I add a little cilantro. Sometimes I add some chives or scallions. I mean, this is more of a traditional style that I'm making today, but once you get the hang of making it, you can flavor it however you want. But for this amount, you want about 2 tablespoons of minced fresh, either dill or mint. Give it a rough chop here. Oh. Into the bowl it goes. Okay. Now, just stir it all together and let it hang out. Like I said, tastes good right away, tastes great the next day. Really can't lose with this. All right, that is looking pretty good. Just gonna set this aside for now. All right, now let's take a look at this couscous. Haha, it's perfect. Look at that. It's not a lot of couscous, and by the end, it's a lot of salad. That's because there's almost more fresh herbs than couscous. Because again, we're making this in the style of tabbouleh. Now, tabbouleh is usually made with bulgur. So just fluffing it up with a fork, making sure it's not too stuck together. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna set this aside and let it cool completely before we add all those fresh herbs. Now, on to the eggplant. Now, I love this recipe because I love grilled eggplant, especially when it's charred and creamy in the middle. It's my favorite. But this recipe is a little different because you flavor it twice. We're gonna flavor the eggplant before it goes on the grill. We're also gonna spoon a vinaigrette over just before eating it. So the vinaigrette, very simple, starts with some olive oil, about 6 tablespoons. That looks good. First up, some cilantro. Now you notice there's some stems in there, which is great because the cilantro stems taste just as good as the leaves. Not the case with parsley. Parsley, the stems taste a little bitter, but not the stems of cilantro. They almost have a sweeter, grassier flavor. All right, into the oil it goes. We're gonna add a little bit of minced shallot. This is a tablespoon or thereabouts of minced shallot. Pinch of cayenne, just for a little heat. You could omit this if you don't like it, but a little heat is really nice in here. Gonna add some fresh lime juice, about 2 tablespoons. 1, that was a juicy lime. And a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And finally, some cherry tomatoes. Adds a lovely fresh bite of summery flavor. All right, we're just gonna cut these in half, add them right to the bowl. Oh, isn't that pretty? Oh, I can't wait to eat this. All right, so that can wait on the finished eggplant. Set that aside. So now for the garlic oil that we're gonna put on the eggplant before cooking. It's pretty easy. It's just some garlic and olive oil, a little salt and pepper, about 2 cloves of garlic. Again, using that rasp style grater. Add a little bit of olive oil, about 3 tablespoons is all you need, and a hefty dose of salt and pepper. There we go, some salt. All right, whisk this together, and now this is ready for the eggplant. You know, you can cook as much or as little eggplant as fits on your grill, but because we're using charcoal today, I'm using charcoal because I love that hearty char. It gives the lamb and the eggplant. Can't fit as many as you want, especially with the coals before they burn out. So we're just using about 1.5 pounds today, which is a big globe eggplant. What I'm gonna do, and I washed this already, I'm gonna trim off the end. I'm gonna cut it into nice thick slabs, about 3/4 of an inch thick. Oh yeah, all the way to the end. Perfect for the eggplant. I'm gonna put them on a nice big rim baking sheet to bring out to the grill. And we'll brush it with this flavorful garlic oil. Now, eggplant is kind of like a sponge, especially when it's raw, and it will absorb as much oil as you dump on it. So that's why having a set amount is helpful. Otherwise, you get greasy eggplant. So, oh, and the flavor of the garlic and the pepper particularly, plus the salt, of course, really just make sure that the eggplant has some good flavor. A little for you, a little for you. Now, I love measuring the amount because it looks like you run out, but you have the perfect amount for 1 eggplant. Any more and you're in Grease City. All right, that's all set. Now time to get the lamb. Now this is an unusual cut of lamb, a little bit. You have to ask the butcher for it. Is lamb shoulder roast, a boneless lamb shoulder, and it is the perfect cut for lamb skewers. Now what we're gonna do is cut it into relatively small pieces for a kebab, just 1/2 inch, but the small pieces mean you get a lot of good surface area, so lots of good char, and the lamb will cook through completely. So, as with lamb, there are usually some gnarly bits in here that you want to trim out. The fat, for the most part, I'm going to leave on because that fat bastes the meat as you cook, so a little bit is good. So what I do is I start by cutting strips, again, about 1/2 inch thick. All right, then what I do is I go back and I cut it into cubes. You can really carve out any sort of gnarly bits that you don't want. All right, there we go. Last little bit here. Oh yeah, okay, perfect. Now for the skewering. So how many skewers you need here really depends on your skewers, how long they are, but you want to tightly pack the lamb so that it's touching. You don't want a lot of space between the pieces, but you want a lot of surface area. So, medium tight pack on the lamb. So I'm just gonna go back, add these last few pieces to these last few skewers. You do wanna leave a good amount of skewer at the end so that they don't fall off when you're grilling. All right, last one. Onto a rim baking sheet it goes. Notice the rim baking sheet is lined with foil. That's because when we're grilling, I'll take the foil off and I'll have a clean baking sheet to bring the cooked food back in on. All right, what we're gonna do is season these with a little salt and pepper and a little bit of olive oil. Gonna drizzle it right over the top. There we go. It's simple. It's not a lot of flavoring on this lamb. It's salt, pepper, and olive oil, but it really tastes good and next to that eggplant that has a ton of flavor, and of course the tzatziki. All right, oh, I got a little oil on myself. I'm covered in lamb. So before I head out to the grill, I am gonna change my shirt and then we can get grilling.
Are you ready to take your cooking to the next level?
Introducing the complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook.
Featuring every recipe from every episode of America's Test Kitchen. That's thousands of recipes. That texture is unbelievable. Reviews,
gadgets you didn't know you needed.
and tips.
Yes, there's some terrible choices, but there are also some amazing choices.
We've spilled all of our secrets and included our insider notes alongside each recipe.
Plus, there's a handy shopping guide so you know exactly what to grab when you're at the store.
And of course, it makes an excellent gift. Get your copy today at americastestkitchen.com.
So I have the charcoal heating up and I have a full chimney that's 6 quarts. As you can see, it's good and hot and ready to be dumped into the grill. Now, when I dump it to the grill, I'm just gonna dump it into half the grill because I wanna make a really concentrated fire that'll help cook those skewers through really quickly. So I'm gonna dump it into the back half of the grill. And by back half of the grill, I mean the half of the grill away from me, because I've learned over time, when you put the fire too close to you, it just gets too hot. So the back side is perfect. All right, I'll just spread these out a bit. I want to make a nice even layer. All right, so that looks like about half the grill. Now we're gonna heat up the cooking grates. They've been sitting off to the side here. All right, so now we're gonna put the lid on. We're gonna let those grill grates heat up for 5 minutes. And the one thing to note is that the vent holes on the top and the bottom are wide open. That's because we want a lot of airflow. We want things to really heat up. So this will take about 5 minutes. The grill's been heating up for 5 minutes. Oh, you can see it's good and hot. Now I'm just gonna scrape it clean with a nice good wire brush. Get any gunk that's stuck on there from the last time I cooked. You can see Ziggy in the background. He's not going far when there's cooked lamb nearby. He's probably checking all his bones. He has them buried all over the yard. He actually has a bony aging process. He moves them periodically, and they're done aging when they're absolutely disgusting. Then they're the perfect time for him to eat them. All right, so that looks pretty good and clean. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of vegetable oil, pair of long tongs, wad of paper towels, and I'm gonna dip the paper towels in oil and just really clean any soot off of the grate. But also, as the oil hits the hot grill grates, it changes and almost makes a nonstick coating. It's just a nice way to keep these grill grates good and seasoned. All right, now we're gonna start with the lamb while the fire is good and hot. All the skewers on at one time. These guys aren't gonna take very long, probably about 6 minutes altogether. I'm gonna keep the lid off and I'm gonna turn them as I need to so they're nice and browned. And the pieces of meat are so small, there's no need to temp the temperature. When they're nice and browned, they're done. So now I'm gonna take the foil that's been lining this rim baking sheet off. That just gives me a clean baking sheet to work with. Again, we wanna get them browned on all sides, so I'm just giving it a little quarter turn. All right, these are looking, oh, see, Ziggy shows up whenever the meat's done, right? He has a nose for perfectly done lamb. You can see the skewers are nicely charred on the outside. And when the skewers are charred, the lamb is done. On Ziggs. Off the grill they come onto the clean rim baking sheet. And now is the perfect time to grill the eggplant. Now, if you were just grilling eggplant, you'd want the coals in an even layer fire. But because these coals have half died down, they're not as strong as they would be for the lamb. So they're perfect for the eggplant. So that's why you do the eggplant second. On the grill they go. They take about 10 minutes. Sometimes they take them a little longer depending on how the coals are doing. And I like my eggplant really well done. Sometimes if I think the eggplant's a little underdone and spongy in the middle, it gives me what I call sweater teeth. It makes your teeth a little fuzzy. So I like my eggplant well done. About 10 minutes, I'm gonna flip them back and forth, move them around to make sure none are burning and they're all getting evenly browned. A lot of people call that active grilling. That's when you stand by the grill and you manage the heat in the food. These eggplant are looking perfect to me. I like the extra char on the outside because it's nice and creamy on the inside. And you can tell they're getting done because when you squeeze it, it doesn't really hold its shape. You can see how it's just really tender all throughout. And that's what you want to look for. If it doesn't look like that, it means it's still starchy and raw tasting on the inside. Well, Ziggy's here, that means it's done. And again, because they're nice big steaks, they really do hold together well on the grill. Oh yeah, that one is gonna be my favorite one with that nice char on the outside. See, this one doesn't give as much when I squeeze it, so I'm gonna let it stay on for another minute or two. It's always hard when you have the last pieces on the grill and you're waiting for them to finish, but that's the key of grilling. You gotta take things off the grill when they're done. If you rush it, you'll wind up with undercooked food or really overcooked food. All right, that one comes off the grill. And we are done. We'll let the rest of that charcoal burn out and we can head inside and finish up. Come on, Six.
Love our in-depth reviews? Get the latest from our reviews team delivered straight to your inbox. Our well-equipped cook newsletter provides top product picks, no-nonsense buying guides, and must-try recipes. No extra fluff, just the smartest ways to shop, save, and cook. Sign up for free now at americastestkitchen.com/newsletter.
I love it when the food comes back inside and it's all cooked. It's the best part. All right, so let's transfer these gorgeous skewers to a platter. Oh, yep. Now for the eggplant. It's pretty delicate at this point, so I'm gonna use a nice spatula to transfer it without creating any raggedy bits. I'm gonna put them in a nice single layer on a big platter, spread them out. That one, these three, that's how I like it, a little charred. Now to top the eggplant with this lime and cilantro vinaigrette and these cherry tomatoes that have been sitting in the vinaigrette. Oh, they are delicious. Those cherry tomatoes in the vinaigrette could be a meal on its own. Oh, hey, Ziggs. Yeah, you got the sense it's eating time, huh? That boy knows when it's dinner time. That is for sure. Ziggy never misses a meal. I could just eat this whole plate. This is one of my all-time favorites. All right, now set that aside for now. Last but not least, the couscous in the style of tabbouleh. We're gonna start by juicing some lemons. Need about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. A little extra never hurt anybody in this dish. All right, so we're looking for about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Another clove of garlic on the rasp style grater. Get a little chopped shallot. A little bit of salt. And a good amount of olive oil. About 1/2 cup thereabouts. That looks good. Twice the amount of olive oil as you did lemon juice. Think of it that way. All right, we're gonna whisk this together. Now we're gonna add the couscous. It's nice and cool. It's been sitting off to the side this whole time. Oh yeah. Oh, this salad's so good. All right, set this in the sink. Excuse me, Zygmunt. Now for the fresh herbs. A lot of parsley. 2 cups of chopped fresh parsley. That's what makes it in the style of tabbouleh. Tabbouleh is actually a parsley salad. And some mint. A lot of chopped mint. We're gonna add just a chopped tomato, finely chopped, seeds left in. I love all that juice and flavor. In fact, when it comes to tomatoes, most of the flavor is in the seeds and that gel surrounding the seeds. So if you can leave that in, if you don't mind that texture in those seeds, that's where all the flavor is. I know that little bit of couscous really grew into a salad that could feed a crowd. All right, just gonna give it a quick taste for salt and pepper. Perfect as it is. And this is the meal. There's the couscous, the tzatziki, the eggplant. Here are the lamb skewers. And the thing that goes best with a meal like this is some homemade mint iced tea. Yeah, you can buy mint iced tea, but man, if you can make it yourself and use your favorite black tea, it is such a luxury. And here's how I make it. First, you start with about a 1/4 cup of fresh mint and you bruise it using the back of the spoon just to release its flavor. And you put that mint, 5 black tea bags of your choice, and some good water. Yeah, I get a little fussy here. I use spring water from a bottle, but there's not many ingredients here, and water is one of the more important ones. Put that all in a saucepan, and you bring it up to about 190 degrees, thereabouts, where there's bubbles around the outside of the pan over medium heat, about 10 minutes. Let it steep off heat for a few minutes, take out the tea bag, strain out the mint, put it in a pretty pitcher, and add a quart of good ice cubes. Now you wanna stir them until they melt, and then you're ready to go. All right, garnish it with a nice overgrown mint stem from my garden. Still warm from the sun. You have to make your own mint iced tea. There is nothing you can buy that tastes like this. You taste the black tea, a little of the mint, I put a little sugar in there. All right, now let's make a plate. First up, the couscous. I like putting the couscous on the bottom because it kind of absorbs all the other juices and it just grows in flavor. All right. Now for some eggplant. Oh, where are my chard guys? Oh, you're right here. Yes. And this little guy, we're gonna have a lamb skewer. And some of the tzatziki. A little dollop right there. Oh, man, this is a vacation meal right here. All right, first up, going right for that beautiful eggplant. Oh, you can see it's super creamy in the middle, charred on the outside. That's how you do it. That's the flavor. Oh, I love it when it starts to almost break down. A little of the couscous. I keep calling it couscous, but really it's more of a parsley and mint salad. Now for the lamb. The lamb is perfectly cooked with a little bit of smoke and char from the charcoal grill. The cool and creamy yogurt. Oh, this is the master bite right here. This is the perfect summer vacation meal. And what better way to top it off than dessert made with fresh fruit, gussied up with a little ginger and lime. Time to make dessert. And I love this dessert in the summer because sometimes you just don't want something heavy and rich, especially after a meal like lamb skewers and tzatziki. So we're gonna use some fresh fruit and we're gonna gussy it up with a little ginger and lime. So how you do that is you measure a little sugar into a bowl. Not a lot of sugar. You wanna let the fruit speak for itself. So just about 4 teaspoons. There we go. To this, we're gonna add some lime zest. About 2 teaspoons thereabouts. All right, now you wanna mash this together using a spatula. Might as well use a happy spat since it's dessert. We're just gonna mash the lime zest right into the sugar, help it release some of those flavorful oils from the zest. Oh yeah, it smells good already. That is perfect. Now we're gonna add a little ginger. Here I have a fresh nub of ginger. I have to say ginger, it's a little controversial in my house. Some of us like it, some of us don't. Now to peel the ginger, I'm gonna use a spoon. It's just a real easy way to peel that very thin skin off without losing too much of the ginger underneath. There we go. And I'm gonna put the ginger, about a teaspoon, gonna grate it right into the sugar. All right, that looks pretty good. Now for the fruit. Of course you could use anything, but I'm gonna use the favorite fruit of the house, which includes a honeydew melon and a mango, because that's my daughter Marta's favorite fruit. All right, so for the honeydew, we're gonna prep the whole thing. I'm only gonna use half of it in the salad, but the rest will get eaten for sure, especially if it's prepped and waiting in the fridge. So I cut off the top and the bottom. Then using a knife, you just wanna peel the outside away right down to that nice green flesh part. One of my early kitchen jobs was at a health spa. The lowest person in the kitchen was the salad station. You don't really do any cooking. You just cut up lots of fruit and vegetables. And that's what I was on. I got pretty good at cutting up fruit. I could cut it very fast. Again, making sure you want to get any of that light bit off because that stuff really doesn't have any flavor and it's a little starchy textured. That looks pretty good. All right, now I'm gonna cut it in half. Oh yeah. I'm gonna take the seeds off with a spoon. Let me put this trim bowl front and center here. Much like a cucumber, you just go in with a spoon. You kind of just carve out the seeds. And once the seeds are out, you know, a melon will last a couple days pretty easily. All right, now for the fruit salad itself, I actually found it really nice to cut the fruit a little smaller than you think you should. Now, a lot of times people cut it into 1-inch or big chunks. 1/2-inch pieces really make all the flavors meld and it's easier to eat. Into the bowl it goes. All right, now for the mango. We go through a lot of mangoes in this house. We make mango fruit roll-ups, mango popsicles, mango smoothies. Mango, #1 fruit at the Davison house. So to get the most out of your mango, I found it best to use a peeler and peel the outside away. I used to use a knife, but you lose too much of the mango that way. A peeler I found works just as well. All right. Mango, if you haven't cut up a lot of them, they're a little tricky because the pit on the inside is oval and flat. So you can see how it's kind of an oval. You want to slice down on either side. And then because there's a lot of nice mango fruit all around the pit, I kind of take my knife and I carve as close as you can to the pit. And this is what we call a kitchen snack. I eat these later. If Marta doesn't get to it first, it's her absolute favorite fruit. So cutting it up just like we did the honeydew, 1/2-inch pieces. So cutting it into planks, cutting the planks into strips, and cutting the strips into a nice dice. Into the bowl it goes. So we just want to toss the fruit with the lime and ginger and sugar. Let it hang out 15 minutes, half an hour. You're basically macerating the fruit so that sugar will pull out some of the moisture in the fruit. The flavors will meld, the fruit will get sweet and a little bit soft. And then 15 minutes, we'll add the delicate berries to finish. All right, the fruit has been sitting for a little bit. Now to finish it off, we're gonna add a little lime juice, as much or as little as you want, just adds a little brightness. I think just half a lime looks good for today. We're gonna toss that in, throw this in the sink. Nailed it, right down the disposal. I love it when that happens. All right, now last but not least, raspberries. Super delicate, really good in this salad though. Just wanna stir them in at the last minute. Try to preserve their texture as much as you can. Obviously I washed them. And that's it. That is the salad. All right, we're gonna eat this out on the patio. There we go. Oh. This person needs a little more mango. There you go. All right, a little more mango. All right, a little taste before we head outside. I'm gonna do the ultimate bite here. Oh yeah. Oh, I did it, look at that. It's just more than a sum of its parts because the fruit is softened, get a little bit of the ginger and the lime, then the mango and the raspberry. It's a great way to top off a summer meal. See you next time. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?